because I think Andrew brought up a good question about how to make beach cleaning more cool, and also what happens with the waste once you have it collected. So I think these questions are not yet addressed. So I would like to hear Asila. Thanks for joining us from the class.
Hello. Thank you so much, Maritza. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Maritza. Hi, everyone. Just to echo on Andrew's question, Ursula, what do you do with all the plastic waste you collect? Is there an opportunity to do something really visible with it, to make a point that the public can see and engage with? So far, we did a collaboration with a local NGO called Sarawak Eco Warriors. We actually did an art exhibition back in 2018 until 2019. We did a cleanup at one of the coastal area here, and then we engaged with a local artist. So with all the rubbish collected, we made an art exhibition together with the kids that we engaged with at the time. And we call the main feature is a helmeted shark with rubbish surrounding it, and we call this shark Sharky. And this Sharky has been going around Kuching for environmental related events, this and that. But right now Sharky has retired. The panel, everything is just falling off. So that was one of the things we have done with the collected rubbish. But other than that, unfortunately, most of it is being disposed at the local, what do you call those again? Local, what do you call those again? Dump site, sorry. Because the place where we do our cleanups, there's no proper waste disposal. Is either an open dump or a dumping ground. So yeah, unfortunately ended up there. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Moritz, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I was talking to a colleague.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise. Anyone else got a question they'd like to ask? I don't know if the other panelists want to turn their cameras on and give us a wave now. There we are, Azani. Hi.
Maybe I could ask Azani and JC to expand a bit on the new games, because I think that created quite a lot of interest, the games for solid waste, and I know there are plans for a different new set of games. So maybe you could expand a few minutes on that.
Azani, the team came up with a game. What we did in the gamification center was having a group of teams, and they have gone through the the game design thinking, and the team actually came out with a couple of games. I think there were 3 groups and 3 games, and I think the most successful one, or more like all the games were good, but Azani's team, if I'm not mistaken, was the one who had that initiative to move further and create a prototype after prototype, and then later copyrighted it. It's the one that I shared was on Balut and Sampan. Even I myself learned a lot from it. I'm a computer scientist, so I've learned from the game itself certain sort of things what we should do if we want to have clean water, and what we would do, that would create dirty water and so on. So like a snake and ladder is divided into 2 parts. That's the gameplay of it. So you have to move up to have clean water and avoid moving down. Yeah, so that was one of it, the game that was created. I think Azani also introduced to us another team, the Reef Stake. I think I quite like the game that they made. And we use that for awareness, to first get people to feel comfortable with one another, because a lot of this team or participants that come and join us, they do not know one another. So by playing games, they then become very comfortable. So Reef Stake, I truly would recommend Reef Stake as well. A good game. Azani, anything else to add?
Yeah. So we have a few of us in the same room.
Give us 1 second.
Okay, hi. So I'm in a different window now. Yeah, there's a question that came up just after we were having a chat from JC. Holly from CFAS was asking how can we include long-term financial capacity into the monitoring and public awareness projects. Yeah, I think that's also one of the key criteria when we're talking about building resilience for the communities that we have been working with, where a lot of the projects don't go beyond 3 years. So it doesn't make it sustainable unless the champions are ready. And when I say ready, it means not only in terms of knowledge or behavioral change, but it's also they are able to build some form of financial literacy and given the support on how to communicate some of the ideas they want to bring forth. So, so just some initial hand-holding that we've done with the communities, and then how to move on from there. So, so that's almost like for us in the university as well. None of the projects can really go past 3 years, so that's actually quite important. So Holly brings up a very good point about that. One of the modules that we've been now developing as well is about financial literacy, especially working with the youth and working with the women. But that's not ready yet, so we can't really talk much about that yet, but we've already started working on that. So I think the gap analysis has been done, so we've done some initial scoping on that. Now it's just trying to fine-tune the prototype as well. So like JC mentioned, we prototype a lot of the games, but they will be made available for people to use as well. So you also asked Holly about, can we set up litter booms and use waste collected to feed back into the community? Yeah, so I'd like to add a little bit on that. We've recently purchased machines which were designed by Precious Plastic. And so those machines, I think we receive additional funding from this project now that actually bought those machines and made them readily available. So we'll be working with schools and communities in the next year on, so once they've collected the waste, if they are able to do plastic segregation, we've already created some games for plastic segregation as well, that they are able to segregate it properly and get the waste ready for the next process. It's almost like creating a circular economy. So we'll be trying to do a bit of work with that. I think JC, you could add on that, right? The circular economy work that we're working on. So that would help the community to work on making the project more sustainable and basically giving value to the plastic. So we've been talking a lot about that, how to actually give value to the plastic so that they can use the waste and move forward from there. JC, you want to add on?
Yeah, sure. The public awareness and also the circular economy. I think because of these projects, the 3-year project, we have experienced that every time when we finish the project, we leave and the project just dies off in the community itself. So one of the strategy that we've done is literally just empower the community. So empower the community in terms of getting them tasks, getting them to do something that is really passionate, like intrinsic motivations, like gaming, getting the children to get more excited. Even recently, we just came back from a village, a very simple project that we did. It was we had an activity with the children, the STEM activities, and it was we told the children, we said, could you please get your mother to come and meet us the next day? And it was the children actually nudged the parents, and the parents came and see us. So we called the parents earlier, but none of the parents came. But the next activity was with the kids, and the next day the parents came. So we are going through we're using a different strategy because I think the pandemic itself and the development in the community has progressed so much. We work a lot with social scientists, anthropologists. So the science would only come in slightly later. So we we collaborate. I think that's the best word. That's where the transdisciplinary comes in as well. Collaborate with them and then get them to do that groundwork. And we come in, empower them during the projects. And then, of course, whenever we do, we have fundamentals, but our vision that we see is always an impact. How are we going to see it in the next 5 years and 10 years? What are the strategies? And then knowing the circular economy is knowing what are the gaps as well. The community may not see it. We may see it because we have done the SWOT analysis as well with them and the gap analysis with them. And then we try to see if we can create that link, the nudge, not by informing them, but nudging them, because we still believe in the behavioral change indirectly. Again, with the intrinsic motivations, getting them to find what is it that is they're passionate about. So yeah, it comes from within, not what the government in Malaysia or usually does is giving money, and then they would do it, but that would not sustain. Yeah, so that's what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. I think that ends our time slot, and I pass back to Hannah. Thank you all very much for your contributions and your wisdom, and thank you again for a very fun session.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you to Polem and to Alicia for coming along and talking to us as well. So as I said earlier on, we're going to move into the last session of day one, which is more of a discussion session. And it's going to be a bit of a reflection about how the MyMiP project has gone and planning next steps to try and keep the good work going after the funding finishes, which is very similar to what we've just been talking about. So you're all very welcome to stay, but if you want to log off now, if you haven't been centrally involved in the project, that's completely fine as well. So I'm going to ask Andrew to come back on camera and Mike, and maybe the other partners of the project too, just to help me out. And I'm going to attempt to share a whiteboard that I put together so that we can kind of collaborate on this together. Let's see if this will work. Collaborate on a whiteboard. And hopefully it will magically appear with the one I did yesterday in preparation. Okay, fab. Here, can you all see that?
Yep. It says in progress for me.
Okay, it may be loading. So we have a whiteboard that's split into 4 zones and kind of reflecting firstly in the yellow section on what's gone well around this kind of MyMiP project network. Blue section is what didn't go so well. The green section is what would we do differently if we were starting again with the benefit of hindsight. And then the pink section is what could the next steps be for the MyMiP network going forwards once we get to March and the funding finishes. And then at the top, hopefully you can see a few bullet points to help you think about specific things. So these are kind of some of the key things that we've done through the project. We obviously, you've heard about the analysis kits that were built and sent out and are now located in different institutions throughout Malaysia. There's the video tutorial that Yen talked about, which was put together and is available on YouTube in English and in Malay. There's partnerships that have been developed with various different institutions across the wider Malaysian network and also bringing in the beach cleaning and WWF NGOs. And then there's engagement and advocacy work with kind of community groups, schools and policymakers. So those are some things to kind of guide you. And then I'm hoping that we can all just put into this whiteboard using, you should hopefully all be able to add some notes. So on the left-hand side where it says create, yeah, Moritz is waving.
Yeah, we can't see it, I think.
Okay.
Yes, a few
I can see it.
I think maybe only within UEA.
That's really irritating.
Maybe if you share your screen.
So Hannah and I can sit and fill in this very nice.
Well, okay. So
maybe we can and you type.
Yeah. maybe we can just comment then. So I can kind of keep notes, but people can chip in and say around those 4 things. So let me just.
Shall we just work our way around it then, Hannah, and in the different boxes, and then maybe you can just capture some of the comments people make. So the top left box, since I can see it, says what went well. So if anybody would like to just suggest, you know, verbally or in chat, I guess, what they think has gone well overall in this project.
Yeah, okay. I thought I had shared my screen, Holly. So I'm sharing my whiteboard now. Let's see if I could share that too. Does that work? What can you see? Can you see the whiteboard? You can see yourself. Yeah, so it's lost the whiteboard and it's just sharing the screen.
I see you, me, and Andrew.
I should have tested this with someone outside UEA, so apologies for that. I was assured by Microsoft that it would work. Okay, so we've had, Alcil has said that the more the merrier in terms of influencers to lifestyle bloggers. So getting in, so next steps would be bringing in as many different people as possible. And over
so if we want to reach communities, and I was very struck by the comments that were made about the fact that really young people are very aware, and maybe slightly older people aren't so aware, or maybe don't have the time and the energy to be aware. Maybe it's because young people see it in black and white and it's all very simple, and they don't understand why older people aren't dealing with it. But maybe that gives us a clue to how we need to tackle the problem and get to people by perhaps a bit more of a age range bottom up approach, if young people appear to be knowledgeable and engaged. So we really need to use all those tools that young people engage with, I guess, which takes me out of the discussion pretty instantly, because I have no clue how to use any of these tools. But you know, I think it's really a really interesting opportunity if we can find ways to engage with the kinds of social media that young people see and engage with. And as I said, I have no clue how to do that, but if anybody else does, I think that's really useful. Yeah,
so expanding partnerships to kind of new groups and new stakeholders.
To find that expertise and kind of broaden our vision out to embrace it.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really great point. In Asia, at least, Facebook is huge still, and I would say that people tend to learn differently. It's still very visual based as well. And so having a lot of snippets, I would say, videos and snippets coming out more often would raise a lot more awareness than just doing like one big thing, but having a lot of constant bombarding almost of small information and infographic that would really work. Yeah.
Which requires a lot of resource, doesn't it, to kind of do that drip feeding over the long term?
Yeah, or even if it were to be repetitive, you know, even the same material reworked, but just having it blasted more often also will work, I think. Yeah, because quite often the posts have a lifespan. And so every year, once you have enough content for a few, you know, like if every week you could come up with one thing, and you can have 52 planned, then you already have it for the year, and that can repeat every year. That would also be okay.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we have to formalize the network. Actually, now it's very much a research project within the group. But if we were to keep this alive over time and expand it, then we probably have to give it a structure also. So I think that's something we should discuss, maybe internally first, but then afterwards try and grow the network. So we already have other colleagues who want to join. I think we can reach other academic members as well as other NGOs with whom we're already working through Kuching Beach Cleaners, through WWF and so on. So I think there's quite a lot of interest, and if we wanted to formalize it, but then that requires funding. I think they need some kind of support.
Well, yeah, it certainly needs a core group of people with the will to put in the time and effort to maintain it. You know, obviously, if you want to do grand things, you need lots of money, but you know, a network, like any club or society, is dependent on its members and the effort they're prepared to put into you know, maintain something they believe is useful.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is often done voluntarily. But of course, if one wants to you know, to have these bigger initiatives, like, you know, a focused social media campaign, for instance, as Andy pointed out in the chat, you know, companies spend large amounts of money trying to do this, and that's not a resource that you're going to have, I think. So I would wish it for you, but I don't know how to deliver it. So, you know, that's something that you have to maybe think creatively about how you can do it. You know, can it be some sort of team project for a cohort of, I don't know, social sciences students at a university, or, you know, is there some other resource that can be tapped into to find some of that energy, time, manpower that might be needed for something like that?
Yeah, and obviously, so far the MyMiP network has kind of been governed by the GRTA project, and we've had our collaboration agreement to kind of organise the relationship between the partners and distribute the funding and set the goals. But when that comes to an end, it will be kind of become an informal, loose network with no kind of governance and funding, and you probably need to review your goals, because the original goals of the project were to set up the network, and it's kind of set up, but now it's like, how do we make it long term, and are you wanting to do more science or wanting to do more communication or a bit of everything? It's kind of a good time to review all of those objectives, really. So probably the next step is to have a meeting with key partners and say, you know, what do we want to do next, and how we're going to organise ourselves.
Christmas wish list.
So we've talked a bit about next steps. Has anyone else got any other ideas for next steps while we're on this theme?
I think, I mean, I don't know, but is there any kind of intent to try and get together as a research community to try and, you know, influence funding providers perhaps to do something? I mean, I don't know how it works in Malaysia, but in the UK, for instance, the Natural Environment Research Council, they kind of seek ideas, and there's a kind of lobbying process, I guess, that goes on, that leads on to funding calls in particular focused areas. So I guess the question is, you know, is there any mechanism or any will to try and lobby funders to create an opportunity to get the funding to do something?
I guess I speak for everybody who's scientist. There's always the will. I think Cheryl, maybe Cheryl Rita has actually a bit more practical insight because she works on the policy government side. Jerry, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Maurice. I was hoping to try to discuss some of this during my presentation tomorrow, in fact. So I'll probably not reveal too much at the moment and try to cover it tomorrow. But thank you, Maurice.
What about Suhami and Yen from UMT? Because Yen's been kind of coordinating the network during the life of this project. And I don't know if you've kind of reflected on what might come next. Are they still on?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, actually, Maurice and I talked about this the other day, but yeah, because of I'm just working as a postdoc now, I will need to see what is the next first. But I talked to Maurice and say that yeah, I'm happy to keep the network working.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. Let's go to the green section for those that can see. If you can't, it's what would we do differently if we had our time again, I suppose. What lessons have we learned that we could pass on to perhaps other countries that are represented here that might be looking to do something similar? So there's the time to kind of be a bit not hard on ourselves, but honest with ourselves about what we might have done differently. Obviously, COVID has been a big thing, and we will gloss over that. Anything else in terms of the kind of project design or how we ran things? Yeah, Moritz.
I think one thing that we could have improved would be engagement with industry partners. Maybe we don't have so much industry really involved. I know Nestle in West Malaysia has quite a big role in the larger plastic policy and management and waste. But I think for our end, we don't have really like an industrial partner who would, for example, be able to fund follow-up projects on the tea bags and this kind of stuff. So I think that link is something we could have maybe improved on.
Yeah, considering they may be contributing a fair amount of the waste to begin with through their production, etc. Yeah.
Hannah, Maurice, Cheryl here. If I can just add one point, perhaps at this stage, I'll try to open my camera. Yeah, still in the office actually. So I just wanted to add. I think when I first got the invitation from Maurice, I thought it was excellent opportunity because microplastics is definitely the next thing that the Malaysian government has to or have started to speak about. Because when we talk about plastics, and there is a policy now, which I will be sharing a bit more tomorrow, but I think it's something that not, when we talk about plastics, and the next thing that comes to mind is that there's so much going on, to the extent of sometimes it's difficult to keep track as to which project is trying to cover what. So it's all overlapping between these projects and initiatives and so on. But that's on the macro side of things. But then when we go to the micro side of things, there is hardly any that we can actually use as a reference point, unfortunately. And this is where most of the information or data for Malaysia, at least, is still limited. There's a very weak source of information to support policy and so on. So we've highlighted this in the policy, but I think it's really, really interesting to see that there is such an initiative, which I came to know only through this invitation. So I think if I can just very vaguely mention, I think it's the way to go. It's really something very positive, something that I think the government probably should know more about. I believe they don't really know about this as much because MIMA didn't really know about it as well. But it is something very positive, and I hope it's continued. It doesn't die off with a project timeline. Just to briefly mention that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Hannah, that probably emphasises something that what would we do differently. I think clearly we haven't managed to communicate as well as we might have done to the key stakeholders what the vision is and why we believe it's important.
Yeah.
So it's not too late, of course, and welcome and thank you for the comment. But I think that's something we have to take on board and think about for future activities to make sure we are focusing efforts on areas that have relevance for and value for policy, and making sure that the results are communicated.
And I think, was it Azani who mentioned in the last panel discussion about how sometimes scientists are busy going along collecting data that they're interested in, and it's not necessarily what the policymakers need in order to make good decisions. So that's maybe we need to involve the policymakers in the design of the research question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, I mean, it's great that we've had quite a number of people from the CFAS Marine Litter team with us. I don't know how many of them are still with us, but that's an area, I guess they'll be talking a little bit about it tomorrow, but that's an area where they have a great deal of experience, of course, of turning scientific study into policy advice. Yeah, okay, Umberto's just confirmed that he'll talk about that tomorrow. So I think that's something, you know, where we, as a group of academics, are maybe, we were aware we needed to do stuff, and perhaps COVID has prevented more of it from happening. But it's an area probably where we need to engage more and learn more. And hopefully, as we move forward into the new project, we can take some of that on board and do better in that area.